The story begins with two close friends, Sarah and Linda, as they sift through a box filled with Sarah's late mother's belongings. Among the items, they stumble upon an old Polaroid camera and a picture of her mother, seemingly taken with the same device. Curious, Sarah decides to use the camera to snap a picture of herself in lingerie for her boyfriend. However, the moment the flash goes off, an odd sense of unease washes over her. Dismissing the feeling, they leave the photo to develop. Just then, Linda receives a phone call and steps out, leaving Sarah alone. As she moves to lock the front door, strange noises echo from upstairs, sounds that resemble someone using a camera. Following the noise, she returns to the room where the photo was left and discovers that it is fully developed. But what catches her attention is something horrifying. A dark, shadowy figure lurking in the background of the image. A sense of dread takes over as the room's lights begin to flicker and unfamiliar sounds emerge from another part of the house. As she cautiously steps into the hallway, a ball unexpectedly bounces down from the attic, heightening her fear. Despite her growing anxiety, she forces herself to climb up to investigate. The moment she reaches the attic, the ladder suddenly collapses, cutting off her escape route. Frantically scanning her surroundings, she tries to make sense of the situation when, out of nowhere, an inhuman hand lunges at her. The shock causes her to lose balance, but before she can fall, she is forcefully yanked back up. Within moments, her life is violently taken and her lifeless body is thrown down. The scene then shifts to a shy high school girl named Bird Fitcher, who is preparing for picture day. Bird is known for always wearing a scarf to conceal a scar on her neck, a habit that has earned her the nickname Scarf Girl among her classmates. After school, as she makes her way out of the building, she spots her crush, Connor, laughing with his friends. Overcome by a sudden impulse, she lifts her camera to take his picture, but he catches her in the act. Embarrassed, she hurriedly gathers her things and rushes off to her part-time job at an antique store. At work, Bird is approached by her coworker, Tyler, who surprises her with an old Polaroid camera he picked up at a garage sale. The camera has the initials RJS engraved on it, sparking Bird's curiosity. Excited to test it out, she snaps a picture of Tyler. As the image begins to develop, Tyler leans in, attempting to kiss her. Uncomfortable, Bird pulls away and walks off, accidentally leaving the camera case behind. After arriving home, Bird excitedly picks up her new camera, eager to snap a few pictures of her dog. But to her surprise, the usually friendly pet growls and backs away, almost as if sensing something off. Just as she's about to take the shot, her best friend Casey shows up full of energy. She invites Bird to a costume party, teasing that it would be a great chance to socialize, and maybe even run into Connor. Bird hesitates at first, but the mention of her crush is enough to change her mind. Soon, they're picked up by their friends, Mina and Devin, a couple known for their playful, love-hate banter. The car ride is filled with laughter, but amid the fun, Bird pulls out a picture she had taken of Tyler earlier. That's when she notices something unsettling, a dark shadow lurking in the background. Assuming it's just a smudge, she tries wiping it off, but the mark refuses to fade. Shrugging it off, she puts the picture away, not giving it much thought. Meanwhile, at the shop, Tyler is wrapping up for the night when he stumbles upon a box of old photographs. Curious, he sets them on the projector and begins scrolling through them. But as he flips through the images, something unnerving happens. He spots a shadowy figure that seems to shift from one picture to another. His gut tells him he's not alone. Gripping a hammer, he swings at the curtain, convinced someone is hiding behind it. But he hits nothing. As he turns back toward the projector, the curtain suddenly takes shape, morphing into a sinister figure that lunges at him, bringing his night, and likely his life, to a horrifying end. At the party, Bird and her friends arrive at the lively venue where they are greeted by Avery, the host. But despite the upbeat atmosphere, Bird feels out of place and distances herself, standing quietly in a corner. That's when she notices someone in a skeleton mask staring at her. Her unease grows, but when the masked figure steps forward and removes it, she exhales in relief. It's Connor. The two start talking, but their conversation is quickly interrupted by Mina and Devin, who pull Connor in for a group selfie. Bird offers to take the picture with her Polaroid camera, capturing the moment just as Casey unexpectedly photobombs. Once again, the eerie shadow appears, this time lurking behind Connor. Before Bird can process this, Avery playfully snatches the camera to take a selfie. But before the picture fully develops, the party is abruptly interrupted. The police arrive, asking for Bird. She soon finds herself at the police station, sitting across from Sheriff Pembroke, who delivers shocking news. Tyler is dead. He urges her to reach out if she learns anything that could help the investigation. During their conversation, he also recognizes her last name, recalling a tragic accident from her childhood, one that left her with the scars on her neck. That night, unable to shake the growing unease, Bird flips through the pictures she had taken with her Polaroid camera. What she sees leaves her stunned. The shadowy presence that was in Tyler's picture is no longer there. It has now moved to Avery's. Meanwhile, back at her place, Avery is cleaning up after the party when she hears something. Footsteps from upstairs. Her heart pounds as she cautiously moves to check, but the moment she steps forward, she sees it. A sinister figure lurking in the darkness. Panic grips her, and she bolts toward the front door, but in her frantic escape, she crashes into a lamp, hitting her head hard. Dazed, she desperately tries to crawl away, but before she can make it to safety, the ghostly entity catches up to her, grabbing hold and snapping her neck in an instant. The next morning, Bird receives a shocking call from Casey. Avery has died. Overcome with fear, she rushes to check the photos, only to realize something chilling. The dark shadow that had been in Avery's picture is now gone. Instead, it has moved on to the group photo. Determined to end this horror, Bird tries to destroy the camera, but the moment she touches it, a powerful shockwave knocks her to the ground. At school, Bird sits with Mina, Devin, Casey, and Connor, all struggling to process the tragedy. She takes this chance to explain her theory. Avery's death wasn't an accident. The shadow moves from one photo to another, taking the life of whoever is in its grasp. She warns them that anyone captured by this cursed Polaroid camera is doomed, but no one believes her. Devin, frustrated, takes the group photo and burns it, dismissing her claims. To everyone's horror, Mina's arm suddenly burns in real life, and Casey feels an intense pain in her fingers. Before the unseen force can do more damage, Bird stomps on the photo, extinguishing the fire. Shockingly, the charred picture restores itself as if nothing ever happened. Mina is rushed to the hospital for surgery, and as the friends anxiously wait outside, they discuss the camera's origins. Bird remembers that the camera's original case is still at the antique shop, so she and Connor decide to retrieve it. Once they arrive, Bird insists on going in alone, reasoning that she's safe since she isn't in the photo. As Connor waits in the car, he studies the group photo, when suddenly he hears the sound of the camera winding up on its own. Meanwhile, inside the shop, Bird finds the case, but before she can leave, the sinister entity appears. Terrified, she tries to escape, but her scarf snags on a nail, tightening around her throat. Just when it seems like she'll meet a gruesome fate, Connor rushes in at the last second and saves her. On their way back, Bird is troubled. Why did the entity come after her if she wasn't in the picture? That's when Connor drops a bombshell. She is in the photo. Her reflection is faintly visible in the background. At the hospital, Mina wakes up after surgery to find Devin sitting beside her. After a brief conversation, he steps out to get a nurse. At the same moment, Bird calls Mina, urgently warning her not to be alone. Fear grips Mina and she tries to get out of bed, but before she can escape, the entity attacks. By the time Devin returns, she's gone. Following a trail of blood, he stumbles upon a horrifying sight. Mina's lifeless body hanging behind a curtain. When Bird and Connor arrive at the hospital, they see Devin speaking with the police. Once the officers leave, Devin turns to Bird, seething with anger. He blames her for everything, his words cutting so deep that she runs off in tears. Connor follows, and they find a quiet spot to talk. As Bird opens up, she reveals a painful memory. Her father had been a journalist. One night, he wanted to show her an important project, but she was too eager to go to a sleepover with friends. Disappointed, he turned the car around to head home, but on the way, he got into a fatal accident. The guilt has haunted her ever since. Connor reassures her it wasn't her fault. Determined to find answers, they finally open the camera case and discover a hidden locker tag inside. Intrigued, they head to the library to research the date on it. After sifting through old records, they uncover a horrifying truth. The camera once belonged to Roland Joseph Sable, a photography teacher from their school. Decades ago, he was accused of torturing 4 students, killing 3 of them while taking their photos in a twisted obsession. The nightmare only ended when one of the captives managed to escape, leading to Roland being shot by the police. That evening, the group meets at a restaurant, trying to make sense of everything. As they talk, Bird recalls something strange. When the entity was after her, it reacted to heat. This reminds her of how photographs are developed. Too much heat or light can ruin an image. She wonders if the entity follows a similar rule, existing only in darkness. To dig deeper, Bird pulls out an old picture of Roland's house, suggesting that someone connected to him might still be there and could have answers. Casey does a quick online search and finds out that the house is currently listed under Anne Faraday's name. Meanwhile, Devin, overwhelmed by frustration over Mina's fate, makes a reckless decision. He wants to test the camera himself. He tries to take a picture of Bird, but Connor intervenes, leading to a struggle. In the chaos, the camera clicks on its own. The group watches in suspense as the photo develops. Devin's face appears, and with it, the shadow moves onto him. He's next. Panic sets in. Terrified, Devin turns on his friends, desperately trying to shift the danger away from himself. In the commotion, Casey stabs his photo with a pencil, causing him to recoil in pain. Furious, Devin lashes out, just as Sheriff Pembroke arrives and takes him into custody. Later, Bird and Connor try to explain everything to the sheriff, showing him what they've uncovered about Roland. But Pembroke refuses to believe them and warns them to stay away from it. Before leaving, Bird visits Devin in his cell. He apologizes for his outburst and suggests that maybe his fate is inevitable, giving them time to find a way to stop this nightmare. On their way back, Bird gets a call from Casey. There's something off about the house's ownership records. It turns out Anne Faraday never actually bought it. The real owner? Lena Sable, Roland's wife, who used a different name. Despite Pembroke's warning, Bird and Connor decide they need to speak with her. Meanwhile, back at the police station, as night falls, the entity makes its move. Devin, trapped and defenseless, meets a grim fate. At Lena's home, she's hesitant to talk at first, but when they mention the camera, she finally opens up. The camera, she reveals, belonged to her daughter, Rebecca James Sable, RJS. She takes them to Rebecca's old room and shares a painful truth. Rebecca was mistreated by her classmates, and to cope, she turned to her camera, capturing moments that made her feel safe. But one day, a cruel trick was played on her. Her so-called friends manipulated her photos and spread them around, making her a target of public humiliation. Unable to bear it, she disappeared, never to return. Roland, devastated by what happened to his daughter, sought justice in his own way. He lured the ones responsible into the school's darkroom and used the camera on them, marking them for what he saw as their punishment. Before he could finish, the police intervened, and in the struggle, Roland was shot, clutching the camera as he fell. Lena then hands them a picture of one of the kids who got away. As they examine it, the lights in the room begin to flicker ominously. Sensing something is wrong, they rush out, calling Casey to meet them at the school. Once there, they dig through old school records, matching the photo to an old yearbook. What they discover leaves them stunned. The survivor isn't just anyone, it's Sheriff Pembroke. Before they can react, Pembroke storms in, bringing Casey in handcuffs, accusing them of trespassing. Thinking fast, Connor snaps a picture of Pembroke, but the sheriff quickly throws the camera to the floor. Then, in a shocking twist, Pembroke reveals that Lena's story wasn't entirely true. The photos weren't a cruel joke by Rebecca's classmates, they were actually taken by Roland himself. According to Pembroke, Roland had a dark side, and when the kids found out, they planned to use the photos as evidence. But Roland discovered their plan and turned on them first. Before Pembroke can say more, the entity looms behind him. He fires his weapon, but it has no effect. The entity simply takes Pembroke's photo, and in an instant, he meets a gruesome fate. Chaos erupts. The entity attacks Casey, injuring her leg. Connor grabs Pembroke's weapon and fires, buying just enough time for the girls to escape into the bathroom. They turn on the hot water, hoping the heat will keep it away. After a while, Bird cautiously steps out, looking for Connor. When she finds him, he pulls her into a room, desperate to come up with a plan. Bird realizes they need to lure the entity to a place where Roland's spirit can fully develop. The darkroom. They retrieve the camera, but before they can move, the entity grabs Connor. Thinking fast, Bird does something reckless. She takes a selfie. Immediately, the entity turns its focus on her. She sprints toward the basement, leading it straight into the darkroom. As it reaches her, its icy grip tightens. Bird struggles, but in one final move, she raises the camera and takes a picture of the entity. Her fingers accidentally get caught in the frame. But she doesn't care. Without hesitation, she crumples the photo. The entity begins to weaken. But it's not over yet. Desperate, she sets the picture on fire. As the flames consume the image, the entity lets out a distorted wail before fading into nothing. Bird stumbles out, reuniting with Connor and Casey. The nightmare is finally over. In the final scene, Bird walks to a cliffside, staring at the cursed camera one last time. Without hesitation, she hurls it into the ocean, ensuring its dark legacy ends forever.